Countdown to NFA. Hello, Flute friends. I'm Matthew Allison with Flute World, joined today by Jennifer Grimm, the Vice President of the Board of Directors of the National Flute Association. Hi, Jennifer. Thank you for being here with us today. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing excellent, thank you. So
Good.
we're counting down for the National Flute Convention, National Flute Association annual convention, which will be held in Phoenix, coming up August 3 through 6. And I'd just like to know, what has you most excited about this year's convention?
I think, yeah, this year is so great. We have in our program chair, Ali Ryerson, someone who is a specialist in jazz. And I do not know if we've had a program chair who specializes in a genre other than classical music. So just with her breadth of experience in this field, it's already bringing so many new concerts and so many different experiences that I think what typical NFA goers usually experience. And I think it's so great to expand all of our reach to kind of embrace other music that's other than classical music. And so I'm excited to hear all of the different guest artists that she's bringing over. She's bringing a lot of people from other countries to bring their music to us in Phoenix. So I'm really looking forward to that.
That's so very exciting. I know that Ali has been involved in quite a number of NFA conventions through the past. What's some of your experience with NFA years past?
Yeah, I mean, I've been involved with the NFA for I've been involved in the service aspect of NFA for about 10 years, starting from when the convention was in my hometown, which was Las Vegas which was in 2012 was when the convention was in Las Vegas. And I was the volunteer coordinator, and I helped with a lot of the local events. And that was sort of my first entry into what the NFA is all about, which is about volunteers, and it's about people from the community getting together and really giving of their time to make this incredible event happen. I mean, I didn't realize how many people are involved in getting a convention to happen. There's the staff, but beyond the staff, there are like almost 100 committees and people on these committees that help put together programs for the convention, that help either just put programs together for education, pedagogy, all of these different things. And so that was my first sort of realization that this organization is, well, I mean, how huge it is. I didn't realize how huge it was. I knew there were a lot of people who attended it, but I didn't realize that there are so many people on the back end really to make this happen, which was really fantastic. So then after that, I joined different committees, and then I was asked to be program chair for the 2020 convention, which kind of lasted a little bit longer through the pandemic. And then I joined the board as vice president last year. And so, it's like this life journey of being involved in this incredible organization. But it's so great to be able to meet many people, like meet a lot of new people and people who have such different interests, all related to the flute.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, thank you for those 10 years of service and everything else that you do for the flute community. We really appreciate you and all that you contribute. In those 10 years, is there a moment or an event or concert or a class that you took that really just was specifically inspiring or opened your eyes?
I mean, I have to say, the concerts are always really spectacular. I mean, not just the gala events in the evenings. Those are having, those concerts tend to be with, maybe the more well-known performers, but the concerts at 8 a.m. sometimes are the most, influential and most meaningful concerts I've attended. So, don't just shut yourself off from the events earlier in the day. Those tend to be really uniquely programmed and very uniquely designed. And I've learned about so much repertoire from attending concerts all throughout the day, not just relying on these gala evening concerts. And so I remember discovering every time I come to NFA, I learn at least about 3 new pieces that I want to perform myself. And I also learn a lot about flute choir repertoire that I have for my students. And so it's, all of these concerts at all times of the day, I think are so great to attend.
I love that. We can learn and be inspired by each other so very well.
Mhm.
Uh, A moment ago, you mentioned how surprisingly large the organization is, and for people who haven't yet been part of that, that could feel intimidating. Could you talk a minute about how the NFA, in addition to being large, though, is diverse and inclusive?
Yeah, so, there'll be maybe 3,000, even more possible attendees at the convention. And even though the attendance is large, the NFA, especially in recent years, has done a lot to really think about, including aspects that everyone will appreciate and that everyone will be a part of. So, whether it's programming pieces by composers of color, LGBTQ, having these kinds of focuses, but also having meeting spaces and affinity groups for lots of different people so that you can kind of come together, not just for sort of finding space within each other, but just to network, even just to network with each other. So it does feel like a large thing, but there's also many opportunities to find your own small communities within this larger event. So, I mean, for example, I will be hosting an affinity space for flutists of color, and we're having two of them. One's on Thursday and the next one is on Saturday. And these are spaces just for us to get together, it can be as simple as just to meet each other, just to expand your network, but it also can be just to share, the positive, negative, all of the challenges that we have, but also just some of the wonderful things that we're doing. And I think the NFA, by embracing these affinity spaces and these meetup groups, really help people to find their own sort of smaller community within this vast convention.
Yeah, and that kind of support can be really reassuring and comforting to know that you are in fact not alone, and that the NFA is doing a really great job of making people feel wanted and welcome. I appreciate that, seeing all the work that you're doing, and that's a really great effort to really moving beyond borders, and that is the theme of the convention this year. Could you talk a little bit about that and what it means to you?
Yeah, so, when I think about Beyond Borders, I think it's like a brilliant theme that Ali has come up with, and it really fits who she is. I mentioned earlier about how she's such a great jazz musician, and that she's bringing in a lot of diversity, not just of performers, but just of genres into the convention. And so by having different genres, that sort of defines, each genre can have its own boundary, but by bringing them all together, it really sort of expands everyone's kind of perception of things. So for myself, I'd love to be able to experience other music and be able to experience that music in a way that is familiar. So I can be playing classical music, I can be playing flute, I can be doing all of these sort of common things, but if I'm hearing different sonorities, if I'm hearing different pitch centers, if I'm hearing all these, sort of influences from different genres, it really sort of expands sort of my own expression. So I'm really excited to kind of get inspired by hearing music from different cultures, from different countries, and also just different genres to kind of, expand my own playing itself. So, whether you're going to hear jazz, you're going to hear music that's maybe not classical in nature, all of that stuff I think is super interesting for us to kind of appreciate this year.
And classical music inspired by other cultures' rhythms or modalities
Mhm.
and themes. So that's really exciting to bring that in one place in Phoenix.
Yeah.
And with these new sounds and music that we'll be hearing, there's going to be quite a few premieres of new music, and I believe that you're premiering a piece of music. Is that right?
Yes, so I will be performing the premiere of Anima by Mariana Villanueva, and this piece is for the Young Artist competition. And I'll be performing it on Thursday afternoon, and It's a really, really interesting piece. It's got a lot of different effects. There's a lot of breath sounds and timbre trills and all of these kinds of things. I love to play new music, and so this piece is really up my alley, but it's very accessible as well. And so I'm looking forward. I mean, I'm in the beginning stages of the learning process of it myself, and it's like a really, really great piece to explore. And so, I mean, I think it's really wonderful that the NFA is, you know, is really one of the leaders of commissioning new works in terms of, you know, in all instrument associations. I mean, the NFA has premiered so many new pieces and has commissioned so many composers. And so, you know, this is just one of the many composers that are going to be presented, premieres that are going to be presented at the convention.
Well, that's fantastic. And out of personal curiosity, the extended techniques that you're using in this piece, are they more traditionally modern, or are they meant to be reminiscent of a traditional flute from a different culture? Does it have any story behind those techniques?
Yeah, I think they're pretty conventional in nature. I think, you know, you could hear a lot of, because there's a lot of breath sounds in it. It does have sort of an association of different instruments, maybe instruments from other cultures, but there's nothing specific that's there. It's sort of meant to be kind of, I think, vague and all encompassing at the same time.
And you mentioned how you're in the learning stages of it. And since it's flute players who are going to be listening to this, when I surveyed flute players of questions they'd like to ask prominent flutists like yourself, one of the most common questions is, how do you go about practicing, and what's the first thing that you play when you get your flute out of its case?
Okay, about just practicing in general or learning pieces like this?
Maybe we'll touch on both a little bit.
Okay, so when I'm, you know, if I'm feeling like I have a very productive, if I have a lot of concerts going on, I need to make sure I have a really good warm-up session so that I feel like I can kind of tackle the day. So still to this day, I warm up on harmonics and play harmonics. The first thing I do when I get the flute out of its case is to play harmonics, just to kind of get my embouchure set and just to make sure I know where things are. And I spend the majority of my warm-up time on harmonics and long tones still. So, you know, I think as I get older, I understand more the need to focus on these things. When I was younger, sometimes I would get a little impatient about the long tones, and I'd be like, yeah, okay, I'm done. Okay, move on to the other stuff. But now that I'm older, I'm like, I really can feel the benefit from it. So I do spend a long time on those core aspects of my sound just to make sure I'm in a good place when I begin. And then, you know, I still practice taffanel is the first thing I do. I just want to make sure my fingers are working very well with lots of different articulations. So for me, I change the articulations on every scale I do with taffanel Gobert #4. So that's kind of how I start my day. And then if I kind of need to get into my repertoire, you know, I'll kind of go straight into the pieces I'm playing. And so for this piece, you know, I have to kind of work with different embouchures and different apertures because I'm playing with breath sounds and things like that. So I have to kind of manipulate my aperture in different ways. And so I want to do that without tension. So that's why I think also it's really important to make sure I'm warmed up properly before that. So that's kind of how I start any kind of process.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you for those tips. And I, as a teacher, I appreciate that I can share the long tones still with my students, because they feel like once they've done long tones for a week that they need to graduate beyond that and move.
Never, never.
Lifetime of long tones and harmonics.
Yeah.
So as we're getting through this countdown, do you have any tips for first-time attendees who have never been to a convention before?
Bring comfortable shoes. That's very important to make sure you have very comfortable shoes that you're going to be on your feet and walking all day. And, you know, we'll be in and outside of these convention centers. So you'll have you may think that you're next door to the convention site, but I think I wear sneakers every day except for when I'm performing, and then I put on my nice shoes, and then I put my sneakers right back on. So that's a big thing for me. But also, if you're staying at the convention hotel, you'll notice that there's a lot of flute players around, and so I always have earplugs with me, to make sure for myself that I can sleep very comfortably in these hotel rooms, and also not worry about, if I'm practicing, if I have earplugs in, it makes things a lot easier too. So having earplugs, comfortable shoes, and bring lots and lots of water because we're going to the desert.
Yeah, great tips. And earplugs for sleeping is wonderful. But in addition, for those of you who might be going to the exhibit hall is going to be full of flutes and people playing flute. When I'm in the exhibit hall and I'm not actively playing a flute myself, I have earplugs in. When I'm in the exhibit hall, it can be a little bit overwhelming, and the exhibits are open for quite a long period of time. So being in that much sound for a long period of time can really drive up the senses. So great tip on the earplugs. I'm going to pack 2 pairs, keep one next to the bed and keep one in the exhibit hall.
Yes. Yeah, good, great idea.
So I know I've got them. What about, do you have any advice for people who might be watching this who want to be involved with the convention but aren't able to make it to Phoenix this year?
Well, we have a whole series of virtual events that happen during the year, and we have a series in the fall, another series in the spring, and you can contribute by sending in a submission and application to present at the virtual series, or just attend them yourself and kind of get an idea of what they're like. You can get really great ideas for pedagogy. There's been really interesting, fascinating conversations on pay equity recently on as one of the virtual sessions, negotiating contracts, things like that. Like there's like really useful practical information, is also very educational as well. So by attending the virtual events, or even if you want to present, you can also do that as well. And so we have really events that happen throughout the entire year. And that is something that the NFA wants to do more of, is have a presence or just be available for the community all through the year, not just at the convention. Everything always seems to be like focused on the convention, but it is a year-long association. And so we are doing more to sort of have things to offer for the community throughout the whole year.
That's a great reminder. And there are events I've noticed for people throughout all stages of career, whether you're an amateur or enthusiast or a student or a young professional. There's so many young professional development things that are happening, or even professionals that help with that. And for me as a teacher, I really appreciate the resources that help me teach better. So great job to NFA for all that you're putting together. But we're flutists, so we love those things. Do you have any advice for the non-flutist friend or partner or spouse that might be tugged along to this convention?
The earplugs. Just kidding. Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I mean, it can be, it can sometimes feel overwhelming for a flutist. So I can't even imagine, if you're not a flutist, what that might be like. But there is a lot to learn about just music in general. Like what I find for myself, sometimes I'll watch a master class given by a violinist or a pianist or a singer, and get like so much out of it, much more than I even thought possible. So, if your friend, spouse, or they're musicians, and like, attending the master classes, you can get so much out of it that you wouldn't even expect before. So I've always found watching other instrument master classes be very interesting and rewarding for me. So that could be something for friends and loved ones, of people going to NFA. But also because, especially this year, there's such a diversity of music that's going to be represented. I think it's going to feel more than just a flute convention than I think in past years. Like you're going to hear a lot of music with big rhythm sections. You're going to hear a lot of pieces with with drums and bass and piano. You're going to hear a lot of music that's definitely not been presented so much in past years, which I think is, again, adds to the diversity of what's going on. And I think that's going to be also interesting for listeners as well.
Well, with that last statement, you have me thinking maybe in addition to sneakers, I might need to pack a pair of dance shoes also. Because it sounds like with all of these rhythm sections, there's going to be some opportunity for some maybe movement in this music enjoyment.
I would imagine so, definitely.
Well, this is exciting. I am very excited about what's upcoming with this next convention, August 3 through 6. Advanced registration, for those of you who have not yet registered, ends July 13th. It is a discounted rate to register for the convention through July 13th. And do you have anything else that you'd like to say, Jennifer, to our flute friends?
Well, I am just excited to see all of you in August. The NFA is, it's ever evolving, ever changing, and ever like, we're always listening. We're always wanting to do better. And so, you know, come talk to us and, come talk to me, the president, Rebecca Johnson, the executive director, Jenny Clark. If you have any suggestions or anything that we can do to make the organization even more inclusive, we're doing a lot, we're listening. And so and it is a big mission for us to make this an organization for everyone. So, I hope to see you all there and hope to have really good conversations when we're there.
Well, I look forward to conversations with you too. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for your time today, and we'll look forward to seeing you in
Sure.